Hello, wonderful world. It's Jennifer here at Astrology and Healing, and today we are going to be talking about the Libra new moon partial solar eclipse. It's happening on October 14th, 2023, and it's going to be happening at 12:55 Central Standard Time. So adjust your time zones accordingly if you're going to be doing any new moon rituals or just curious to know what time it's going to be directly happening where you're living. With that, let's talk about the notables. And again, before we talk about the notables, if you want to know how this is affecting you directly, you can always schedule a consultation with me at astrologyandhealing.com. And with the notables, I feel like this is playing largely into the new moon itself. And the first theme here, you can see behind me, the winds of change. It was like 75 yesterday, and now it is about 40 degrees where I live. I think that's the high today. And you can just feel like there's a sudden shift and a change. And now I know we're not right next to the new moon. It's about a week away from now, but it's coming, and I think people are feeling it this week, especially just on an observation note. People are like, what is going on? People are just kind of losing it. And part of it is, I just think, it's the nature of seasons, right? We're feeling in the northern hemisphere that winter is coming. Not to be lame or cheesy, but there's a real aspect to that. I think primitively at our core, we know that winter comes, things are gonna change. And it might not be the most pleasant. There are definitely opportunities that winter brings, but that initial shift is a little bit, I don't want to say scary, but liminal and not knowing. But let's get back to the notables here. And so first and foremost, I want to talk about a lot of the personal planets, the planets that move quickly. So Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all of them have moved signs in the last few weeks. And I'm giving this just to kind of give a little backstory because this energy is playing into this chart and something we should take note of. So first and foremost, Mercury was in Virgo for a while. It had, remember, a retrograde, and so it spent a little extra time there, a lot of extra time for it. And now it was in Libra. October 4th is when that shifted. So Venus, and so Mercury, just to go back to that though, before I forget, is, what we're thinking about, what we're focused in on. So focusing in on from details and, maybe kind of going inward and cutting out, we're thinking about what we want to cut out in our lives. Now is shifted into Libra, thinking more about socializing and connecting and working with other people, thinking about other people, not necessarily like what we're doing in the scheme of things. It doesn't mean that in Virgo doesn't mean about thinking about helping other people, but this is more about how we relate in general, like when we connect. So then Venus, our planet of desire and things we love, was in Leo for a long time. So Venus had its retrograde in Leo, so it spent a long time thinking about what brings me joy, what brings me to that little childlike glow and vigor, and what do I love? Do I love myself? How do I work with people and other people love me? All those things are being assessed. And also an element of leadership, like where do we find ourselves being a leader? So that was a long time though in Leo, and finally has shifted into Virgo. Now in Virgo, it's not so fun. It had a lot of fun, maybe not during the retrograde, but can at least cut loose a little bit in Leo. Virgo is more about let's get things together. It's, the lead into fall, save the grains, do the work. What do you need to let go of? What's just a heavy weight and get rid of it? Or what is not really heavy weight, more of what's not quality. This is not quality. Get rid of this. This grain is bad, right? You're going to get sick, dump it. Or, you can put in any metaphor you want. But so that shift is now more desiring, potentially serving others, but desiring and potentially thinking really strongly about, or I should say thinking more of the desire of, I need to get rid of some of this stuff, and now this might be a good time to organize and purge your home. I would think more of a spring cleaning, but let's call it a fall cleaning. Okay, I don't need this, I don't need that, I don't need this, get rid of this, get rid of that. So that's a positive way to work with that energy, and October 8th is when that happened. And then we have Mars, and Mars was in Libra and now shifted on October 11th into Scorpio. And now Mars in Libra it's not its most comfortable place, but Mars moving into Scorpio is another story. That is a home for this planet. It is one of its its domains, and with this, Mars gets is not so tempered by Libra anymore, saying, oh, well, maybe I do want fairness, maybe I should kind of calm down. It is like, no. And I think of power as being one of the main themes. Like, what is your power? How are you using your power? How are others using power over you, or just in general too? Maybe they're not using it over you, but you can kind of witness, like, maybe this is a good time if you feel like you aren't standing in your true power, or maybe there's a power struggle or dynamic within your life that's really taken hold. Try and find someone that you see who you think is in a healthy stance with themselves. Like, they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. That's part of our own power, right? Like, knowing when you're not able to do something, necessarily, and someone else could do better. And watch them and just see like what that looks like, that energy looks like, because obviously your power is not going to be the same as theirs. Maybe it is where it comes from, but it's more about what does it look like, and do they feel healthy to you? Because when power, you could be misusing your power and you might feel great, right? Like on top of the world, but it's a little vampiric, much like Scorpio. It's like taking almost from others to charge yourself, and that's not your true power. That's other powers, feeding other powers. And then if you're not, like say you're shying away from, you can see the sense of deflation, and you can see how that vacuum can call in people who want to kind of exercise their power over you, right? Because it's like, well, you need to have some power in your life, and if you're not going to step up, some are going to come in. And so that's a big theme I think that's going to come out, is these power dynamics, and there's more to foster this aspect of the chart. So we'll talk about that in a second. And actually that is going to be our next point, is that Pluto, another planet, the planet of power in and of itself, it has moved direct, and October 10th is when it's stationed to move direct. And so when a planet stations, it just means it hasn't moved back or forth like the way it's going through the sky or the degrees. That's when it's at its strongest, because it's not doing anything, it's just like getting amplified. And so just days before this partial eclipse, it's Pluto, that planet of power, is just pumping it out. Like, where is the power in your life, and what does it look like? And I think it's going to be played out on bigger dynamics. We talk about politics, in America right now, there is some power struggles, and people are kind of throwing fits too. And I feel like that's the abuse of power. Like, well, I'm not gonna if you don't, because that's a way of, manipulation. So another Scorpio theme here. And the reason I say politics, because Pluto's in Capricorn, and that is very it doesn't have to be political, but it's the leader on the larger stage, the broader view. Like, you can see that politician, like many people in America know, many of the political leaders, they're to be seen. It's not like your local mayor or someone in a smaller office. This is big time stuff. And 2008, it's been there. You have to remember this. And so something to note about this is, like, all those other planets I talked about move relatively fast. That's why we call them personal planets. Pluto is a slow goer. And 260 some years, it takes all the way around the zodiac. So when it decides to leave a sign, it's leaving for a long time. And so Pluto is gearing up to leave. Not quite yet, but as the next year rolls through, it's going to officially decide to leave Capricorn. And so 2008 to now, what has happened with the world in politically, with power dynamics of the bigger stage, and what does the structure of all this look like, of all our countries and our, I can even say social structures. There's been a lot of upheaval because guess what? Some of these things are old and outdated, and Pluto's like, yeah, I want to pull out the toxic things. And I think over this next year, and I mean, this, being one of the key times to really start to notice it, is like, there's going to be some demand for change. You have to remember, when Pluto entered Aquarius, that for America, that was our American Revolution. And so you can think about it, when a planet this slow moves and this powerful moves into a sign officially, there's a big, big change. We talked about some quick changes with the other ones. This is a big, long lasting change, and it's coming. I don't want to prophesize or say like what is to come, but like, it's time for some deep change within our larger structures, because I don't want to say their story is done, but it needs to be done in a different way, because some of the things are rotten, some of the things may be toxic. That's a very Plutonian thing. They need to go, so we have a stronger, better foundation, because there are definitely cracks, I would say, in I know America's foundation, and I'm sure many other countries and many other larger structures. But so that's happening right before this, partial eclipse. And so what's interesting is like, Capricorn is diplomatic to take on the responsibility of the leadership. And the new moon is in Libra, which is about bringing balance and justice and harmony. So like, I think there's going to be a little bit of demand for that. And it may be from the people, especially when Pluto when Pluto hits Aquarius in January again. It might be like the people like, hey, we're not so happy anymore, because that's one of Aquarian's gifts, is that like power to the people and power to revolution. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think that people will be trying to make the common person more, making the larger figureheads more accountable for what the heck is going on here. But let's go into the rest of the story. So those are the notables, and I feel like they're personifying this new, and they're really pumping up, like all these shifts are happening, things are changing, and I think really right now the universe is having a big ask of us. This is the main meat of what I feel in this chart, is to let it go. And you go, well, let go of what, Jennifer? First, I just think, if the sun and the moon, it's going to be let go of our ego. Let go of stuck emotions or emotions that are holding us back. Like, it's just, they're not serving us anymore, maybe around a certain situation, but especially for both of these in relationships, because it's in Libra. I also feel like we might be asked to also let go of thoughts that we have about relationships, or thoughts that we have even just about ourselves and how we work in relationships. And if we have any anxiety, if we're overthinking about these things a little bit too much, let that go. Because Libra can really think, and with Mercury moving in there, it's just like thinking, how can I make this work? How can I get this balanced? And, don't get stuck in that rat race, or that hamster wheel, so to speak, because you could run on it until you, die, so to speak. Like you could exhaust yourself. That's what I'm trying to say with that. And you're going nowhere with it. So you got to let it go, because then when, like I said, in this eclipse, when you let something go, you can bring something in. And where is that north node? Because why I'm saying all of the letting of it go is because this new moon is on the south node of the moon, which is about releasing, letting go, exiting. And the north node is in Aries. And so what are we bringing in? More of what we want, more of what we really actually need to survive, bringing in our own confidence. That's a huge theme, like believing in ourselves. Like, okay, this seems hard, I've never done this. Well, you better try it, because you don't know until you try. And then if you try a few times and you fail and you haven't, it doesn't seem right, well, then maybe you can talk about not doing it again, right? Like knowing your limits, like we talked about earlier. But if you don't know and you don't try, you never will. That's pretty much a basic kind of thought there. The other things I see, and too, I won't talk about the aspects specifically, but what I kind of got was that there are things that, the things we release may bring about some radical change, really like fast change in our sense of value, and also what we value, and maybe we'll even be like rethinking, and I've talked about this a lot, like, what do I really need? And, are my values necessarily, like nourishing ones? That's a good word. Are they nourishing to me? And it can be first the body, but mind, spirit, soul, all of the above. And the thing is with this shift is that with the aspects, we're not going to quite see it right away. It'll be radical, and then something I think we'll realize maybe the weeks, the months to come, but that on the initial, like this time, I don't think it's going to be directly seen by us. I also see that that there's a sense of daydreaming going on here, and with the aspects, I saw it as, at least two ways. It's my Gemini mind of this happening, and it's like, okay, you can daydream, and then you take action on that daydream, and you start to build a foundation, because at this time we are actually being asked to build a foundation for our dreams, a solid foundation and this dream could last for up to 28 years. And I'm saying this because of where Saturn is in Pisces. And so getting going with that action, and then the change that comes that you may not see right away will be maybe, I don't want to say more in your favor, but you'll feel like, I don't want to say a little more in control, but like, oh, there's that change. Oh, I like that change. I knew something was going to come, and there it is, Whereas the other aspect is, I could see it happening as like daydreaming, not doing anything about it, and either the dream just stays asleep forever, but then also like, where's that foundation? The thing that, never got started could, make a change that you're not necessarily like ready for or hoping for. You're like, well, I dreamed about this and now that this comes, but I did nothing to, even get to that dream. So trying not to stay too asleep, let's put it that way, making sure that the dream becomes, manifest, because Pisces is a beautiful, beautiful sign, but some of these other signs need to help bring the action in, and there are planets there that both help and kind of hinder that. And this building might take a little time. It's okay. It doesn't have to be built in a day. Like, we want this to last and we want it to be good. Make your foundation out of something solid, not weak, because this is going to be going on. And if you build it with, flimsy, delusions, that's another Pisces word, it's not going to last, and it will bring around again change that you're just like, what? I don't want this. And on the last note, this is a young moon. So the young moon meaning it's a new moon. It's not gone through all its phases yet. It's the white night moon. So another themes that we're going to be seeing is like people wanting to save others, others wanting to be saved. What I would caution is don't get lost in the disillusionment when, say, you do try to save somebody or rescue somebody. That don't expect a thank you. And don't expect them to say, I wanted that. Someone might say, like, get into their Aries mode and be like, yeah, I did not need your saving. What are you doing? So thinking about where you're putting those energies into of savior, or where you're trying to bring around justice, because it's needed, but the white knight gets a little like eager and doesn't stop and think about maybe the fuller picture. Just like, this is good, I'm gonna do it because they want it, I think. And slow down a little bit. Let that knight, hopefully have a little bit of temperament. And maybe we are supposed to let go of the wanting of saving people, right? Because this is that white knight, maybe we need to not save everybody. Maybe going into that north node instead of the south node, maybe we need to save ourselves. Like, maybe I'm the first one that should be, taken care of and healthy and saved. And with that, I have a little sentence that I created for this for this new moon, pardon me. Time to find fulfillment in the self, and letting your true gifts and power ripple through the universe. Instead of trying to force change, get it together yourself, be confident in yourself, know your gifts and talents, know your limits, and we're going through the universe this way will ripple out through everything, especially relationships. If you can be a model for that, that's really impactful. People can see, like, oh, just like I said earlier, that's what that looks like. They're not trying to manipulate me. They asked me, I said no, and they're letting it go, right? Like, they're not trying to get something out of the situation that isn't really there. And with that, like I said, if you're curious about how this is affecting you, because it's going to be different for everybody where this is falling in their charts and your planetary placements. I know some people are going to really get rocked in this time, and some it'll be more of a global shift and not such a personal shift, but it's really good to know how this is affecting you, because it could be in your area of your job, your health, your family. With that, may the stars guide you, and the plants ground you, and the winds of change be kind to you. Ciao for now.